Let me start off by saying, if you haven't played Pacman Championship Edition DX, do yourself a favor and go play that first. It's an amazing game. So, what do you get when you essentially take the best Pac-Man ever created and make a sequel? Well, one would expect more of the same, but better. Well, with this sequel, Namco tries to change up the formula a bit from its predecessor, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but perhaps some of the things that were changed shouldn't have been changed. Anyway, let's get on into the review. Also, my review will be based on 3 simple categories: graphics, sound, and gameplay, as these are the most important factors to me. Everybody got it? Good. Alright, so Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 has an interesting way of displaying the graphics, mainly because it has several different art styles depending on which you choose. It ranges from having traditional 2D pixel art to being almost a toy-like 3D effect. You also have the option to change the background, which, admittedly, it doesn't really affect the experience too much in my opinion, but it's a nice way to, customize how you play the game at the moment. The game features a nice, silky smooth 60 frames per second so that it in no way hinders the fast-paced gameplay. Overall, the added option of being able to choose the art style to your taste makes the graphics virtually appealing to anybody. So here's where PCE 2 makes a bit of a change from the previous installment. The main mode, which for most people will more than likely be the score attack mode, is still essentially to go on a set time limit and to get the highest score possible. However, in this game, in order to score the big points, you have to eat pellets in order to fill the gauge at the bottom of the screen to either get a fruit so that you can move on to the next part of the maze, or to get a power pellet so that you are able to eat the trail of ghosts that have been trying to get you. Each time you pass a ghost that is not a leader ghost, it moves from its location and starts moving behind the leader ghost. Depending on which mode you choose, you'll either have one singular leader ghost with a shit ton of ghosts following them, or you'll have the regular mode where there's 4 leader ghosts with less ghosts following behind them. In this game, instead of getting the power pellet and just turning around to easily nab some big points, you'll have to chase the ghosts, and you can only eat the leader ghost in order to get the points. So that actually makes it pretty difficult since the ghosts are really fast and go in random directions. Generally, the switch from one maze to another is a flawless transition. However, it can sometimes get a little confusing considering the amount of stuff going on with quick pace. Besides the score attack mode, there's also an adventure mode where it assigns you a task to complete in order to gain stars, which gives you access to the boss of that section. It's an interesting concept to have a boss fight in a traditional style Pac-Man game, but it's really nothing special. It's an interesting change in gameplay, but I've always been a firm believer in the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Oh my god, when I first found out that PCE 2 was a thing, which was only a few weeks ago, the first thing that I got excited about was the new soundtrack, and holy shit, does it deliver. I loved the music in Championship Edition DX, but it really didn't have that many songs. This time, the game delivers a much larger array of amazing tech and electronic music. Each song sounds so different. It's amazing how much different a song can sound just by adding another instrument and changing the pace of the song. Each track complements the mazes so well, and it's really just a pleasure to hear a kick-ass soundtrack in a game where you have to be on your toes at all times. Overall, Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 isn't exactly what I was expecting. However, it's far from being a bad game. It had huge shoes to fill with DX before it, and I'm not going to dock points just for tweaking the system a bit. The game is still massively addicting, and I have to give Namco props for even trying to make a sequel to DX. The soundtrack for the game is a huge selling point for me. As a guy who would pay $12.99 for just the soundtrack, the game is definitely a steal. Plus, being a score-based game, it makes the replayability that much better, especially once you get used to the controls and the rules of the game. It's just as addicting as an old-school arcade game, and I highly recommend this game despite the few tweaks that were made. I'm going to give Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 a grade of a B+.